The crowds were converging onto Sheikh Hasina Wajid's Prime Minister's residence. That was the time the Indian intelligence told her that it was too dangerous for her to continue to stay there. The C-130 aircraft of the Indian Air Force flew her from there to Delhi, where she was met by the National Security Advisor. We have a problem, a perennial headache called Pakistan. Even if there is a limited war with Pakistan, that country will cease to exist. It will be destroyed economically. Muhammad Yunus, parachuted into Bangladesh. He's a darling of the democratic establishment in the United States. They have been killing Hindus. They have been raping their women, destroying their temples. If Muhammad Yunus is not able to restore the rule of law in Bangladesh, you will bloody well pay a price.
Now I want to ask you about the current state of India's defense capabilities. How would you compare it in regards to China and US?
The United States spends about $950 billion plus on its defense budget. They are more than the defense budget of the next 10 countries put together. So the United States is a superpower. There is just no doubt on that particular score. But even the United States is now feeling the limits of its powers because it has challenged Russia on its own doorsteps in Ukraine. And that war is not going too well. War is not going too well. We may see an utter collapse of Ukraine very soon. There is a second war ongoing in the Middle East, where Israel is has hit back at the Hamas very hard. Now there is likely to be a clash between Israel and Hezbollah, which might escalate into a clash between Iran and Israel, which could be mayhem for that region, right? So Joe Biden, a doddering Joe Biden, a senile Joe Biden has started 2 major wars on his watch.
That's true.
And there could be a third between China, Taiwan, Philippines. I wouldn't be too surprised if something erupts there, August, September this year, trying to take advantage of America's preoccupation in Ukraine, in Middle East, and create a third theater in Taiwan or the South China Sea. Could happen. So that is the United States. China is the next big spender. It spends almost about officially $290 billion per year on defense.
That's true.
But the simple fact is that hides a lot. It's upwards of $350 billion. And people say if you do it in purchasing power parity terms, it would almost be equaling the American defense budget. China today has the largest navy in the world at 350 ships. The United States Navy has 290 ships. Of course, they have the bigger capital ships, 11 aircraft carrier cruisers, and these are mostly smaller ships, patrol vessels and all the rest of it. But the Chinese Navy is now the largest navy in the world. Where does India stand? Simple matrix. Our defense budget is $80 billion a year. In contrast to China's almost $300 billion a year. So we have a lot of catching up to do. Good news is that China has to cater for the United States. China has to cater for Taiwan. China has to cater for Japan. China has to cater for Philippines, Vietnam, a whole host of other countries. So it cannot deploy all those $300 billion worth against India. That is a saving grace. But the fact of the matter is that, yes, the present government has done a lot to create defense infrastructure, which was just not being done on the China border. We were told that if we build roads there, the Chinese will use them to attack us. I haven't heard of something more phenomenally stupid. The Israelis say the road that leads from Damascus to Tel Aviv also leads from Tel Aviv to Damascus, right? And we can equally, the road that comes from Lhasa to Ladakh also goes back from Ladakh to Lhasa. So we invested billions of dollars in creating world-class infrastructure in the Himalayas. So that is worrying China, and that's why in 2020 it staged the Galwan incident. It staged a major intrusion to try and cow us down, but it was given back in full measure. given back in full measure. We have a problem in Pakistan. Our main threat is China. There is no doubt.
Yes.
Right? But we have a problem, a perennial headache called Pakistan. There is a school of thought in India, let's ignore Pakistan
Yeah.
and let that country rot, stew in its own juices. But the simple fact is, it is such a irredentist state that it will not live in peace. It will not let anybody in the world, and especially India, live in peace.
Yeah.
Now, you've seen what this Asim Munir has done. He's made himself a cat's paw again of the United States, of China, of various other inimical countries, inimical to India. And he is trying to kickstart terrorism south of the Pir Panjals,
Yes.
in Jammu, in Rajouri, Punch, Riyasi, Kathua, Doda. He's rekindled terrorism. We've lost 52 boys in the last 3 months.
Oh, wow.
And so far, I'm very surprised that the Indian government hasn't hit back.
Yeah. Why? Why do you think that is?
I am absolutely amazed. The declaratory policy of this government is that hum ghar mein ghus ke marenge.
Huh.
You know, but for some reason they are going a little slow on Pakistan. And Pakistan, I unfortunately feel, has been emboldened, and it has now overthrown the government in Dhaka. At the behest of the United States, at the behest of China, they have given the funding, but the hatchetman job, recruiting the Jamaat-e-Islami, filling the streets with the Islamist volunteers, is the job of the Pakistan and its ISI. So I think it's about time for us to finish this problem once and for all. And I keep saying, even if there is a limited war with Pakistan, that country will cease to exist. It will be destroyed economically. Economically, they are on the edge of a precipice, right? Their economy is tottering on the brink of meltdown. They are taking loans from Saudi Arabia, UAE, IMF, China. They're going around with a begging bowl. And yet this country wants to, try and destroy India.
Exactly. But that makes me think, as you were saying, why is our response slow? Is there something happening that the public does not know about behind the books that is not allowing us to be aggressive towards Pakistan and take a stand?
Look, there is a school of thought. There is a school of thought in the Indian establishment that for the first time, the Pakistani people are restive and angry with the Pakistan army, right? And if we do something on the borders now, it will give a escape clause to the Pakistan army. Oh, the Indians are coming, wolf, wolf, cry wolf, and divert attention of the Pakistani people from their internal problems towards an external foe, that is towards India. That is what it usually always does, right? So there is some merit in that argument, but it can't be pushed beyond a point. That doesn't mean we become a punching bag for Pakistan.
Exactly.
That they can kick us whichever way they like in all sensitive parts of our anatomy, and we do nothing. And we do nothing for how long? How long can you sustain that kind of a thing? And I think the time is about come for India to read the Riot Act out to Pakistan. You be the henchman of foreign powers. You try and harm India's strategic interests. You will bloody well pay a price. And we should extract that price from Pakistan, because this is a nuisance of a nation state.
I also wanted to talk about Bangladesh. In light of the ongoing political and social unrest in Bangladesh, what are your views on the results this conflict may have for India-Bangladesh relations?
Excellent question. You see, there is deja vu in Bangladesh.
Yeah.
Deja vu. 1971, I took part in that war for the liberation of Bangladesh.
Oh, wow.
I had seen how in 13 days, the Indian armed forces, with the help of the Mukti Bahini, had marched 550 kilometers inside Bangladesh to the capital city of Dhaka, enforced a regime change, and brought in the government of Free Bangladesh there, and 93,000 prisoners of war had surrendered, the largest mass surrender in the history of the world after the Second World War, right? And that was the level of euphoria in Bangladesh had to be seen. They were so traumatized by the Pakistani army. They had raped 1 million women. They had murdered, killed 3 million Bangladeshi citizens. And they had pushed out 10 million Bangladeshis into India. And you can now understand that at least 70 to 80% of them were Hindus. Right? Even then they had done this. What was the cast of villains like? There was Pakistan heading the show, brutal crackdown in Bangladesh, genocide, ethnic cleansing, and then there was the backer, United States of America, under Richard Milhous Nixon and his national security advisor, Henry Kissinger, and then there was China. At that time, Pakistan was being the go-between between the United States and America, who were trying for a détente. They were trying to wean China away from the Soviet Union, then Soviet Union, now Russia. And they were trying to do a geostrategic coup, of sorts. And they pulled off that coup. And it was Pakistan acting as the go-between. Henry Kissinger had gone to Pakistan and then he claimed he had a tummy upset and he went into hiding and he was put in a Pakistani aircraft taken to Beijing. And they started Pakistan midwifed the kind of rapprochement between the United States and China, right? And then at one stage, the Henry Kissinger encouraged China to attack India, to take the pressure off Pakistan, right? We had paid for it and they were to sell us air defense radars, right? They didn't sell us those air defense radars. And then they told China, these are the gaps in their radar coverage, attack them, they encouraged. It's only another thing that the Chinese thought they were being led into a trap. So they refrained. And then there was a lot of turbulence in China because of the coup of General Lin Biao, Field Marshal Lin Biao, etc. That's another saving grace. But the fact of the matter is, United States encouraged China to attack India to take the pressure off Pakistan. And then when East Pakistan was about to crumble, the United States had sent in the 7th Fleet into the Bay of Bengal, led by the nuclear-powered aircraft carrier Enterprise. Right? This had sailed into Bangladesh to threaten India, to help Pakistan. It's another matter that we had been Indira Gandhi had been quite visionary, and she had signed the Treaty of Peace and Friendship with the Soviet Union. And the Russians sent their nuclear submarine armada into the Bay of Bengal. And one of the nuclear submarines surfaced next to the aircraft carrier Enterprise, and he just doffed his hat. Ki hum bhi yahan hai. Don't mess with us.
Don't mess with us. Yeah.
Right? And so then the United States calmed down. They didn't want to get into a direct shooting war with the Soviet Union. And that gave us the time to finish the coup de grace in Bangladesh.
Wow. Now that you did mention the U.S. government, I also wanted to ask, do you think that the recent military coup against Sheikh Hasina's government was instigated by the CIA and U.S.?
Absolutely. There is just no doubt about that. Like I said, the same cast of actors, United States, China, Pakistan, is once again has connived to bring about a regime change in Bangladesh and to try and send a message to India that we could do the same to you.
But why? What's the reason behind that?
All right. So that's interesting. I'll give you the reason. The simple fact is Hasina Wajid has said in an interview which she gave to the media, and then there is a letter circulating around which has been quoted in the press today, in which she said that an American representative had come to her before the elections in January and told her that you can have a smooth run in the elections, providing you give us the St. Martin's Island. The St. Martin's Island is off the coast of Cox's Bazar.
Yes.
It is a 3-kilometer square island, and the Americans wanted to build a naval and an air base there, right?
Yeah.
And Hasina Wajid said she refused to compromise with the sovereignty of Bangladesh, because that would also, endanger the strategic interests of India. She did not want to work against the interests of India, which is a reliable, trusted friend and ally, and therefore she refused. The Americans were also undertaking a project to establish a Christian state on the borders of India, Myanmar, Bangladesh, which would have involved the Christians of Myanmar, the Kukis of Manipur and Mizoram, who are Christians, and some Christian elements from Bangladesh, to form an independent zone country, a Christian state on the borders, to sort of play merry hell into Myanmar and to destabilize India and all other neighboring countries. So she had refused. She was a marked woman because she had refused to play by the American diktats, refused to accept the American diktat, and she was a marked woman. And thank God that the Indian intelligence got inkling of this murderous. The plan was to slaughter her like her father. Her father and the entire family had been killed in 1975 in a similar coup. That is deja vu. That's what I keep saying. The more things change, the more they remain the same, the more the cycles repeat themselves. You see? So they have, very definite axe to grind against Hasina Wajid. And like I said, they used Pakistan as the cat's paw. When General Asim Munir, Pakistan's army chief, went to United States of America, whom did he meet there? Victoria Nuland. Who is Victoria Nuland? She is the State Department official who was directly behind the Maidan coup that overthrew President Yukhanovich of Ukraine. She did that coup in Ukraine. She's been behind many colored revolutions, Orange Revolution, Pink Revolution, Arab Spring, etc. And she's a dangerous, lady. And she has been to Bangladesh recently to read the Riot Out Act to Hasina Wajid, perhaps in person. And so he went and met her, Pakistan's army chief. Now, there are intelligence reports that in 2016, the Pakistani ISI operatives, they met Begum Khalida Zia's son, Tariq, in London. And they plotted this whole game. And then the next year, they met him in Saudi Arabia to take this plot further. And now they have executed it with the help of the Jamaat-e-Islami, which has been funded by China, which has been funded by the United States of America, and it has infiltrated all student unions in Bangladesh, and it has been the prima donna behind this overthrow, right? The ostensible reason was that there was a quota of 30% for the children and grandchildren of the Mukti Jodhas, the freedom fighters, the liberators who had freed Pakistan, who had freed Bangladesh from Pakistani stranglehold. And so far things were going well. Bangladesh was doing very well economically. In 2015, it had overtaken the per capita income of Pakistan, whose former colony it was. Then in 2021, it had overtaken the per capita income of India. 6% per annum growth. It was a miracle growth story. Unfortunately, COVID came in and that hit the ready-made garment exports of Bangladesh very hard. Then came the Ukraine war and the cost of petrol went skyrocketing. That caused inflation and unemployment in Bangladesh. And that is why this agitation, that was the excuse for this agitation. But the simple fact is that Hasina Wajid herself had said, do away with this reservation. It is the the Bangladesh High Court in Dhaka which said, no, these should be restored. And then the Supreme Court of Bangladesh said it reduced the quota from 50% to 5%. So logically, this agitation had no basis anymore. But they invented a new basis. You have used excessive force against us. Some 300 plus students have been ostensibly killed in the police firing. And so they just went berserk and the students poured on the streets and a perfect, coup, Maidan coup was staged and they started, attacking the police. The police was told not to fire. The police started getting lynched. There are photographs of the Awami League, people murdered, hung from their feet downwards from bridges, from the high tension wires there. You know, I mean, it is terrible. And then the crowds were converging onto Sheikh Hasina Wajid's Prime Minister's residence. That was the time the Indian intelligence told her, that it was too dangerous for her to continue to stay there. And the Bangladesh army cooperated. They gave her a helicopter. Some are saying it was an Indian helicopter, but they gave her the helicopter. It was escorted by Rafales, brought in from Dhaka to Tripura, Agartala, and from there a C-130 aircraft of the Indian Air Force flew her from there to Hendon in Delhi, where she was met by the National Security Advisor. United Kingdom refused to give her asylum.
Yeah.
Quite obviously, the plotting, as I told you, was done there. Exactly. United States refused to give her asylum, where her extended family is by and large in the United States. They refused to give asylum. So she is with us, right? And now we have Muhammad Yunus. In the dramatis personae, we have Muhammad Yunus, parachuted into Bangladesh. He's a darling of the democratic establishment in United States. Hillary Clinton is more or less his protege, his mentor, and what have you.
Exactly.
And the very fact that he has been brought in here to take charge as the de facto Prime Minister of Bangladesh shows us who's behind the coup.
Yeah.
After all, it is an American protege who has been installed in Dhaka. And he's been telling us that India will have to choose between Hasina Wajid or Bangladesh. As if it is his personal property, Bangladesh. But the simple fact is, Mr. Muhammad Yunus Sahib will have to first get peace and quiet and tranquility in his own country. He'll have to get back the rule of the law. He'll have to get back law and order, restore law and order in Bangladesh. There is mayhem, chaos, anarchy on the streets.
Yeah.
They sacked the house of the Prime Minister. They were carrying her saris and blouses around as trophies. It was a disgusting thing to watch. And then they have been killing Hindus. They have been raping their women, destroying their temples, burning their properties. I mean, is this a civilized state?
Not at all. And that's why I want to ask, what do you think the Indian government should be doing to ensure the safeties of Hindus and other minorities in Bangladesh, given the current political crisis that we're seeing?
Excellent. You see, the fact of the matter is that Prime Minister Modi, while he was congratulating by diplomatic niceties the new regime of Muhammad Yunus, right? 84-year-old Muhammad Yunus. But he also told him that it is his duty to protect the minorities, the Christians, the Buddhists, the Hindus in Bangladesh.
Yeah.
They can't be at the tender mercy of riotous, murderous mobs.
It's not at all.
That's not a civilized state.
It isn't, yeah.
It is the prime duty of a state to safeguard the life and liberty of its citizens.
Exactly.
Is Bangladesh doing that? So apart from pointing fingers towards India, Bangladesh might as well get down and do its duty as a nation state, protect its own population, stop the anarchy, stop the looting, stop the murder and mayhem on the streets, and become a normal nation state. I don't know what the people of Bangladesh want. Do they want to become a colony of Pakistan again? A jihadi state that has just been exporting jihad and chaos and anarchy. It is at the point of collapse itself, and it is spreading collapse and confusion and mayhem all across South Asia, all across the world. Any terrorist act anywhere, and you can trace the threads back to Rawalpindi.
Yeah.
So Bangladesh will have to choose for itself as to what it wants.
Definitely.
Does it want jihadi anarchy and violence?
Yeah.
Will it revel in looting its own people? Or does it want to become a normal nation state with economic prosperity, peace and quiet and tranquility, look after its children, educate them? Bangladesh will have to choose.
They will.
And we are going to wait and watch. But let me tell you, if Muhammad Yunus and his interim government is not able to restore the rule of law, in Bangladesh, then in the next elections that are forthcoming, they will all be bundled out, because the people at a point will get sick and tired of this anarchy, this violence, this total absence of state control. The Bangladesh police is demoralized. They are refusing to report back for duty. They are saying, you order us to shoot, we shoot, and then you get us lynched. Police stations are being attacked. The Bangladesh army has gone into a beatific mode. They say, we will not shoot against our own people. Fine, fair enough. They say they don't want a Tiananmen Square. They say massacre. They don't want a Jallianwala Bagh massacre. Absolutely fine. But at some point, the Bangladesh army will have to act.
They will.
To restore law and order.
Exactly.
That's not what they are doing.
It's not.
That's not what they are doing now. They're just whistling away, and they are being given flowers by the Reuters and the murderers and the arsonists, and they are happily accepting them and hoping that they are winning the favor of the people. But you don't win the favor of anarchists. And once you let the genie of chaos and disorder out of the bottle, putting it back is tough, boy. Putting it back is tough. So I'd like to tell Muhammad Yunus that he might as well focus on restoring law and order and sanity in Bangladesh before he starts casting aspersions on the rest of the world and on India in particular. He'd better do his job, which is to ensure law and order, the rule of law in Bangladesh, ensure the protection of the minorities. Otherwise, you are almost forcing India to intervene. We don't want to. It's the internal affairs of Bangladesh. But if you export your problems to India, like you did in 1971, 10 million refugees were pushed into India. And even now, people are waiting in knee-deep water to flee to India. Flee to India. Right? So, I mean, India has a responsibility.
They do.
Towards citizens of Indian origin there. So, and we may have to act in the future. But as I see it, the regime is going to discredit itself so thoroughly in the eyes of its own people that hopefully in the next election there will be a correction. And in the next election, they'll have to permit the Awami League to take part, to participate. If they're talking such highfalutin, moral lectures on democracy, what they have brought in is not democracy. It is jihadi anarchy.
Thank you so much for this conversation. I know it's given me a lot of clarity, and it's also given me a lot to think about. I truly hope that the people that are watching this video get clarity on these topics that we've discussed as well, and go back home and think about everything that we've talked about. So thank you so much. It's an honor.